Are Ukrainian forces continuing to cut off the Russians south of the Sime? And is their strategy all going to plan? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about it. Okay, so what I want to take a look at here is, first off, this little chunk here. So here's Kursk Oblast, and you can see Russian forces are really patting themselves on the back here, claiming that they've retaken some of these Ukrainian villages here in the south, as well as way in the west. Which you're like, good on them. But here's the thing: is this really unraveling the Ukrainian strategy? Essentially, the argument is no. We saw yesterday, first off, there were reports that the Russians had actually driven all the way to the bank of the Sime here near Snagost, but it doesn't look like that's the case. And even if it were, the most important piece of terrain that the Russians have to stay on the inside of is this sort of fence that is effectively formed by the Sime. So you can see it here leading up to Snagost, something that the Ukrainians are comfortably holding at this point, as well as running all the way north near Glushkovo and all the way south here to Tyotkino. Now, this is what I really wanted to talk about. These are confirmed Ukrainian advances, but as we know, the Ukrainians are prioritizing speed here, and there's actually a lot of evidence that their emphasis on speed is allowing them to drive in. Really, it seems like their strategy is to bisect the Russian forces. We know that there's Russian forces fighting and pushing in this region, and that there's likely other Russian forces here, and that they maintain the need to operate a logistics hubs, likely in Glushkovo, because you can see that's where major roadways kind of feed, like arteries feeding all of these efforts. And so for Ukrainian forces, the most important thing isn't to hold these areas. As you could see, they look like they're bypassing Veseloye. Now, real quick, guys, before we talk about where I think they're going from here, I want to make two requests. The first is to hit that subscribe button. You guys know that makes a huge difference. It tells the YouTube algorithm that I'm one of the legit Ukraine content creators. I'm not here spewing Russian propaganda or AI-generated nonsense. Also, though, if you are looking to just blow your bad days out of the water, you might need some caffeine. Check out Strike Gum. This is the energy drink alternative. Not only that, but we've rolled out a new offer where if you've already tried Strike Gum and you know you're coming back again and again, then you may want to check out the free shipping subscribe and save option, right? If you get your $40 order, right, so that's like a tray or just 2 of the 5 packs, you're going to be able to get free shipping domestically every time. It's a great deal. And again, if you're looking for the zero sugar energy drink alternative, look no further, guys, right? You can see we've had literally hundreds of 5-star reviews here and on Amazon. So there's no, it's so obvious, guys. In the era of the $5 energy drink loaded with sugar, Strike Gum offers you all the caffeine and none of the sugar, plus 100 milligrams of alpha GPC for further cognitive enhancement. Chew it, crush your day. There's a reason why the last time we had a free shipping sale, literally 50% of people were reordering. Okay. That means that for every 2 people that chewed Strike Gum, chewed one piece one time, half of them came back, which says to me that you guys have realized that energy drinks are just a thing of the past, right? The future is going to be your gum. It's going to be Strike Gum. Plus, it's in refreshing mint flavor, so your breath doesn't taste like cough medicine. The link is in the description. You should absolutely check it out. Okay, so let's talk about the Ukrainian strategy here. Again, what they're doing is, we know that the Russians are very good at fighting slogging battles in urban areas, right? Making every fight a building by building clearing operation. And that's tough. And, the Ukrainians are going to have to do it at some point. But for now, their priority is to slice this whole pocket here in half. And so to do that, they're literally just bypassing Veseloye. They're saying, fine, Russians, stay in the buildings, right? They're moving up down this roadway. They're likely going to go to Glushkovo. And then from here, they're probably not going to fight in Glushkovo either. They're going to cut off this roadway, and then go north, cut off this roadway, meaning that they don't have to take out the actual logistics hub. If the logistics can't leave the hub, it's just as good. And even if they just occupy these regions, they don't need to cut off these roads with troops per se. If they can get the troops within a kilometer or two, right? And we'll pull up the mapping software here. One, their current positions are around just about right here. So you can see they are about 4.8 kilometers from the first major artery out of Glushkovo. They're about, 5 kilometers from the second and about 6 kilometers from the third. So if they can really get a little closer, they'll be able to put artillery, almost continual drone coverage. They'll really be able to cut off this logistics hub, and it's going to effectively have bifurcated the Russian forces, right? Because Russians, again, they're going to be, in a lot of ways, cut off from the Sime here as long as Ukraine can continue their campaign of monitoring the Sime and destroying pontoon bridges shortly after they're built. So from here, the rumors are that there's between 3,000 and 8,000 Russian troops in this whole pocket. And this is going to be the hardest part for these guys. Now, you can see the Sime itself is up here, but there's a smaller Snagost River that kind of cuts south here. And I think this is something that the Ukrainians are kind of counting on they've got to maintain. This is going to be, again, the biggest liability for their troops. But I point out there's no roads here, right? There's very minimal roadways. They're all, as long as Ukraine can maintain control of Snagost, right? Which, again, depending on the map, this one shows Snagost as partially contested. You can see that controlling this will effectively block major Russian logistics movements into this area, right? You've got this rail line. This rail line's almost certainly inoperable. But then you have very limited bridging here. And so you have to get into Snagost and get this bridge here, which, according to this, Ukrainians still control. So Ukrainians are doing a great job here of absorbing this Russian offensive and preventing them from taking the absolutely most critical pieces of terrain they need to relieve themselves. And again, this is sort of like, for Russia, it feels like holding your breath and trying to swim through a tunnel, right? The act of swimming, the act of attacking in this case, is burning the oxygen, right? That's the munitions, the supplies, the food, the water, right? They're swimming trying to make this happen, but the harder they swim, the faster they burn through the remaining material, and the less able they are to resupply, again, thanks to being cut off not just from the Sime, but also from increasing pressure from Ukrainian forces here, sort of bisecting the area. So I think this is going according to plan. And one other thing I wanted to point out that I thought was pretty interesting, this is changes to Russian-held territory in the last 12 months from War Mapper. Now, as you can see, Ukraine made some small advances in September and October of last year. And then you can see Russia really having its Donetsk offensive. Here's the fall of Avdiivka in February. And here's kind of their Donetsk offensive where they had that breakthrough near Ultralatina. And then you can see they've really quintupled down on this Donetsk offensive. But the only reason they were able to do so is because literally Ukraine has flipped so much territory, 769 square kilometers, literally offsetting all of Russia's gains in Ukraine. And remember, this cost Russia an average of around 25,000 casualties a month by most estimates. So you're talking about hundreds of thousands of Russians who have been wounded or killed in this effort, and then just to end up losing the same amount of territory in Kursk. So just some stuff to think about. But remember, the overall aggregate situation, if you look at control of the whole country of Ukraine, you can see that the changes have been absolutely incremental. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of people go, oh, Russia's advancing. They're making advances every day. They are so small that they almost cannot be perceived relative to the entirety of the country. Anyway, guys, that's all I had. Huge thank you to the Colonel tier members of CombatVetNews.com, like James Sterling, Steve Moran, Doug Beck, Alan Knutson, Bastian Himmerling, Brian Kelly, Dale McCombs, James Ola, and Henry Roussier, as well as all of our Lieutenant tier members. I really could not do this without you guys. I appreciate you so much, and I will see you all in the next one. Cheers.